First up, we have a very common and useful idiom, to go Dutch. This phrase simply means that each person in a group pays for their own share of a bill, rather than one person paying for everyone else. It's most often used when talking about meals at a restaurant, coffee dates, or tickets for a movie or concert. If someone suggests you go Dutch, they're proposing a fair and equal way to split the cost, so no one feels burdened with the entire expense. It's a very practical expression for social situations. For example, imagine you're out with a friend for dinner. When the bill arrives, you could say, "This was a lovely meal. Shall we go Dutch?" Or, if you're planning an outing, you might suggest, "Let's go for pizza tonight, but we'll have to go Dutch. I'm a bit short on cash this week." It's an informal but polite way to establish that everyone will be covering their own expenses from the start. It removes any awkwardness about who should pay at the end of a social event. Next on our list is an idiom you might use when you're feeling completely baffled. It's all Greek to me. This expression is the perfect way to say that you don't understand something at all. It could be a complex subject, a confusing explanation, or even someone's handwriting. The idea is that the Greek language, with its different alphabet, would be incomprehensible to an English speaker who hasn't studied it. So, you're essentially saying that the information is as foreign and unreadable as a language you don't know. You can use this in many different contexts. For instance, if you're looking at a complicated scientific report, you might shake your head and say, "I've tried reading this chapter on quantum physics, but honestly, it's all Greek to me." Or if a friend is explaining the rules of a complex board game, you could laugh and admit, "Wow, you're going to have to explain that again? Right now, it's all Greek to me." It's a great, slightly humorous way to express total confusion. Our third idiom is a beautiful one that describes a specific type of weather, an Indian summer. This phrase refers to a period of warm, sunny and dry weather that occurs in late autumn, after the first frost, but before the real cold of winter sets in. It feels like a brief, unexpected return of summer, a last little gift of warmth and sunshine. People often take advantage of an Indian summer to enjoy outdoor activities one last time before winter. It's a very poetic and descriptive phrase. You might hear someone say, "I can't believe it's November and the weather is this beautiful. We must be having an Indian summer." This would be a perfect time to suggest a walk in the park or a final barbecue of the year. Another example could be, "Let's make the most of this Indian summer and go for a hike this weekend. The cold will be here before we know it." It perfectly captures that feeling of a warm, golden, hazy spell in the middle of autumn. Now, let's talk about someone who talks a lot. The idiom for this is to talk for England. This is a British English expression used to describe a very talkative person, someone who can chat away for hours on end without seeming to need a break. They're so good at talking and do it for so long that it's as if they could represent their entire country in a talking competition. It's usually said with a sense of light-hearted exaggeration and maybe just a little bit of exasperation. For example, if you call your friend for a quick question and end up on the phone for 2 hours, you might tell someone later, "I only meant to call for 5 minutes. But you know Sarah, she can talk for England." It humorously highlights her chatty nature. You could also use it to describe someone you've just met. "The man sitting next to me on the bus could really talk for England. He told me his entire life story." It's a very vivid way to describe a chatterbox. Have you ever been at a party or a meeting and noticed that someone has disappeared without saying goodbye to anyone? That person has taken French leave. This idiom means to leave a gathering or a place of duty without permission and without informing anyone. It's considered a bit rude or sneaky, as it avoids the social obligation of saying farewell. The origin is thought to come from an 18th century English perception of a French custom of slipping away from parties without a formal goodbye to the host. You might use this to describe a colleague's absence, saying, "I'm not sure where Mark is. It looks like he's taken French leave for the afternoon." Or after a party, you could remark to a friend, "Did you see when Tom left? I didn't get to say goodbye. He must have taken French leave." It implies a quiet, unannounced departure. While it can be seen as impolite, sometimes people do it to avoid disrupting an event or drawing attention to themselves. Our next idiom, Dutch courage, refers to a specific kind of bravery. It's the confidence or fearlessness that a person gets from drinking alcohol. When someone is nervous or scared to do something, they might have a drink to feel bolder. That false bravery is what we call Dutch courage. The phrase has historical roots in the Anglo-Dutch Wars, where English soldiers noted the supposed bravery of Dutch soldiers after they had a nip of gin before battle. It's not seen as true courage, but rather as chemically induced confidence. For instance, if a friend is nervous about singing karaoke, they might say, "I need a little bit of Dutch courage before I get up on that stage." It means they're going to have a drink to calm their nerves. Another example could be someone observing a shy person who suddenly becomes very outgoing at a party. He was so quiet earlier, but after a couple of beers, he's full of Dutch courage and is now dancing on the table. It perfectly describes that alcohol-fueled boost of confidence. This next idiom describes a very common communication problem: Chinese whispers. You might also know this as the game telephone. It refers to the way a story or piece of information becomes distorted and inaccurate as it's passed from person to person. Each time someone repeats the message, small errors or changes are introduced. And by the time it reaches the last person, it often bears very little resemblance to the original message. It's a metaphor for the unreliability of gossip and rumors. You could use this to express skepticism about a rumor you've heard. For example, "I wouldn't believe what they're saying about the new manager. It's probably just a case of Chinese whispers." This implies the story has likely been exaggerated and changed as it spread. Or if a project at work has gone wrong due to miscommunication, a manager might say, "The instructions got completely mixed up." It was a classic game of Chinese whispers from one department to the next. Now, for a very tense situation, a Mexican standoff. This phrase describes a confrontation or deadlock where no party can make a move without being harmed, and therefore no one can win. It's a stalemate where all sides are in a position of equal and opposing power, and any action would lead to mutual destruction or failure. While it often conjures images from old Western movies with cowboys pointing guns at each other, it can be used for any kind of tense deadlock. For example, in a business negotiation, you might say, "The two companies are in a Mexican standoff over the contract terms. Neither one is willing to compromise, so the deal is stalled." It perfectly captures the sense of a high-stakes impasse. You could also use it in a more personal context. "My two roommates are in a Mexican standoff about whose turn it is to clean the kitchen, and now neither of them will even go in there." It signifies a tense situation with no easy resolution in sight. Here we have another idiom related to paying, and it's very similar to our first one. Dutch treat is essentially another way of saying "go Dutch." It means an outing or a meal where each person pays for themselves. If someone invites you to something and calls it a Dutch treat, they are making it clear from the beginning that you will be expected to cover your own costs. It's a straightforward and clear way to set expectations for a social event, ensuring there's no misunderstanding about who is paying. It's used in the same way as "go Dutch." A friend might send you a text saying, "A few of us are going to the cinema on Friday. It's a Dutch treat if you want to come along." This lets you know you'll need to buy your own ticket. Or when organizing a work lunch, an email might state, "Please join us for our team lunch at the Italian place." Please note, this will be a Dutch treat. It's a slightly more formal sounding alternative to going Dutch but carries the exact same meaning. Now for an idiom that is quite dated and not very common in modern conversation, but one you might encounter in older books or films: a French letter. This is an old-fashioned slang term for a condom. Its origin is linked to the historical association of contraception with France, particularly from an English perspective. It's important to know this one for comprehension purposes, but I would strongly advise against using it in your everyday speech, as it's very outdated and could sound strange or even offensive. You're most likely to see this in historical fiction or classic literature. For example, a character in a novel set in the early 20th century might refer to one. It's a piece of linguistic history, showing how objects can pick up names based on cultural stereotypes or associations from a certain era. So, while you won't be saying, "I need to buy a French letter," knowing what it means will help you understand older English texts. It's a fascinating, if obsolete, piece of slang. Our 11th idiom, Russian roulette, describes taking a huge, often foolish risk where the outcome is potentially disastrous. The phrase comes from the deadly game of chance, where a player places a single bullet in a revolver, spins the cylinder, and pulls the trigger while pointing it at their own head. In its idiomatic sense, it refers to any action that has a high potential for a very negative, even catastrophic result. It's about willingly engaging in a dangerous and unpredictable situation. You could use this to describe reckless behavior. For instance, driving that fast on an icy road is like playing Russian roulette. This emphasizes the extreme danger and the chance of a fatal accident. In a business context, you might say, investing all of the company's money into one unproven product is a game of Russian roulette. It could bankrupt us. It's a powerful and dramatic idiom that you should save for situations involving very high stakes and serious potential consequences. And finally, our 12th idiom is a piece of timeless advice. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. This proverb means that when you are visiting a foreign country or are in an unfamiliar situation, you should adapt your behavior to follow the local customs and practices. Instead of sticking rigidly to your own ways, it's best to observe how the locals act and try to fit in. It's a wonderful piece of advice for travelers and for anyone navigating a new environment, whether it's a new country or a new workplace. It's very easy to use. Imagine you're traveling and your friend is hesitant to try the local food. You could encourage them by saying, "Come on, let's try it." When in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's a gentle push to be open-minded and embrace the local culture. Or if you start a new job where everyone dresses very casually, you might decide to ditch your formal suit and say to a colleague, "I see the dress code is relaxed here." Well, when in Rome, it's all about being adaptable and respectful of your surroundings. And there you have it, 12 fascinating nationality idioms to make your English sound more authentic and colorful. From going Dutch on a dinner date to understanding when something is all Greek to you, these phrases are woven into the very fabric of the language. Learning them not only expands your vocabulary, but also connects you to the history and cultural interactions that have shaped English over the centuries. I hope you found their origins and meanings as interesting as I do. They really show how language is a shared human experience. Now, I have a question for you. Which of these idioms have you heard before? And are there any similar expressions in your own language? I would absolutely love to read about them and learn from you. Sharing these kinds of linguistic connections is one of the best parts of our community here. So please, take a moment to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. It's always fascinating to see the parallels and differences between languages from all around the world. Thank you so much for joining me on this linguistic world tour today. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please give it a big thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to English with Dev for more lessons just like this one. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Keep practicing, keep learning.